using Moodle on mobile phones.
Thank you. Sorry, Ian, just talking over the top of you.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to thank you very much for presenting at iMoot16 this year. So, for our talk today, we have Ian Godding talking about using Moodle on mobile phones. So thank you very much, Ian, for being with us today, and I hope you will enjoy Ian's presentation.
Okay, thank you, Vinny. All right, well, I want to start off just getting a sense of you and your background. So I've started off with 5 very quick, sort of 10-second polls. So in order to find out what your experience is, then let's look at why we might use mobiles and what we can use them for, what are some of the tools that you can use, and what are some of the hazards. So first of all, if you, now I presume that you can see this on the screen, and if you can just click A, B or C, just to give us a bit of an idea. Okay, 1 never, 1 once or twice, and 1 many times. Okay, so there's that. We can move on. What proportion of your students have a smartphone? This might be difficult if people are just supporting other people, but let's get a bit of a sense of it anyway. So I'll just turn that one on and okay, and then so 1 each of those, and moving on. Now, first of all, Android. So a quick guess as to how many of your students would have Android. Oh, I better turn that poll on, hadn't I? And answer this, yes, it's going to be a very rough and unrepresentative thing here, but fair enough. Now, next one. And apples. Okay, and moving on to the final one, Windows. Okay, this is a very unfair comparison because as more people come in, the later ones will get more responses. But anyway, it just means the later ones will be a bit more accurate. So there's quite a spread between Android and Apple, and nobody has Windows phones in amongst their students, they think. So that's fair enough. Okay, so why might we use mobiles, and what can we use them for? Well, accessing information, but I haven't put on here words and PowerPoints because on the phone it's not going to be very big screen, and so not very satisfactory. But there are lots of other things that you can use mobiles for, whether they be getting the course information and when the next assignment's due, and those sorts of things. And also videos and audio are terrifically effective and useful. And of course, lots of little problems are solved over the dinner party with internet and Googling the answers. But also you can think about accessing information using QR codes, so the students can just scan one of those patterns and immediately get access to something on your course or something about what they're looking at. or augmented reality. One little example of Aurasma was shown in our hairdressing area here, where there were some posters up for a student open day, and the poster actually included some instructions about how to download Aurasma, and then if the student pointed Aurasma on their phone and took a photo of the poster, then a video would play, and the student on the poster would then start speaking through the phone with a lovely video. So it was a neat way of getting course experience shown to new students. Okay, so that's accessing existing information, but what about generating new information? Well, they can be creating discussions and messages, and they can be doing some assignments, quizzes and surveys, but also the camera and the microphone can be generating photographs and audio and video. Video we'll talk about later on, but in small doses. But the phones have also got accelerometers, and some people are starting to use them in physics experiments and whatever, so that the phone can tell exactly how fast it's accelerating. And GPS data. So if you're taking a photo out on site somewhere, it can tell you exactly where the photo is. So we can be generating information as well as accessing it. And that's, I think, where a lot of the power of the mobile phone comes from. And control in terms of constructivism, the phone is a wonderful thing because it's the technology that students are using all the time. And so they're mostly familiar with it, but of course we'd be challenging them as to all sorts of new things that they can be doing with it. All right, so what are some examples? So students can be using it to provide evidence of things that they've done in the workplace, so that we can get proof of competency. They can document procedures, or they can, if you're studying occupational health and safety, then you can get them to generate photographs and put them on a discussion or an assignment or whatever in Moodle. You can easily use brief text box assignments. Not so much the standard Word assignment where they have to upload a file, especially if you're using Apple, though you can do some of that, but in a limited way. Okay, some of our students have photographed air conditioning equipment and then uploaded the particular air conditioning equipment to Moodle so that it can be discussed in class, and especially for new equipment or whatever that the teachers may not have even seen. So it's terrific. And Josh was saying I have lots who type things on their phones in Google Docs. Yeah, Google Docs is a great option. And it enables people to be working on the same document at the same time, which is a terrific option. It'd be fantastic if Moodle could get something like that going. But of course, you can embed a Moodle document, a Google Doc into a Moodle page and then be using it indeed. Okay, keeping discussions going on between classes. So if students are always on their phones and other students are contributing things that they're finding, then the learning can happen outside the classes a whole lot more. Recording interviews. Moodle Mobile has got a wonderful facility for recording audio and video, and students can be interviewing grandparents of a family history or business people for what makes their business work well. Also, students could be recording oral presentations so that it's not just the heat of the moment in front of the class, but they could actually be a recording of oral presentation and then uploading that for others to see and comment on. Role plays, yes, they could record a role play, and then when they're happy with it, they can then publish it, unlike what happens in a classroom where some people are often a bit shy of doing role plays in class. And proof of competency, as we had above. Okay. Of course, you can watch pre-recorded lectures like Lectopia or Echo 360. Another thing within the classroom or in a larger group, you can get students using either they can text their choice of one of 5 or something like that to Poll Daddy, and then up on the data projector for the class, you can have the results showing in real time, a bit like we had our polls just now. Okay, video of one of our teachers here, Stephen, in the electrical department, was getting one student to video another student testing an electrical switchboard with a multimeter and saying this should connect to this and this should not connect to that, and showing the results on the video, and then they would reverse, and so each had a video demonstrating their competency. For teachers, one terrific thing that you can do with the mobile phone is to set up a rubric, and whether you use a mobile phone or whether you use an iPad or something like that, a Moodle rubric becomes a very quick way of assessing a student presentation, that you can just touch, yes, they did this well, or they did that not so well, and then you can type in a little comment if you like, and then as soon as the presentation's finished, you can make a very quick comment and then have it stored straight away in Moodle, and the student results up there immediately. Marking roles and messaging students. Right. Oh, thanks, Josh. So there's some examples, but where might you do it? And you might use it well, in the workplace, on the train. There's lots of times that students are spending listening to music, and they could be listening to your podcast or doing some things as well. Jogging. You could bring an expert in from overseas or interstate, and I think this is a thing that we don't do as very much, and I think it could be a really interesting thing to be doing. You'd have to have someone talking to their mobile phone and then appearing like this using Big Blue Button. In bed? Now, there's a wonderful teacher called Andrew Douch who lives in the north of Victoria here in Australia, and he does Year 12 biology, and he gave some wonderful presentations, and one of his students was saying that she listened to his podcasts about biology 3 times each day, and once in bed before she got up, and once on the train, and once in bed before going to sleep, and she really understood it by the 3rd time, she said. He also says when students have got your podcast there on their phone, they might be heading off and riding bikes around the mall or whatever with their friends, and their friends would be listening to music, and his students would be listening to biology podcasts. And he says in his introduction, if you don't tell them, I won't, and they'll never know that you're not listening to music. And so he's got a wonderful sense of humour, old Andrew Douch, and the podcasts are absolutely brilliant. You can Google Andrew Douch biology, and you can get them there for free on iTunes. And there's, I think at one stage he described that 30,000 people had downloaded the podcasts. But also, if you up the creek, you could be measuring pollution in the creek and photographing it and mapping where it is. So you could be gathering data from all over, or you could be videoing horse riding and the particular horse riding styles. So here's over to you, but you won't be able to do it on the screen. I was hoping that you could brainstorm on the screen, but you can type in your ideas about how you might use it. And we'll spend just I'll just give you 2 minutes to type into the chat area either of some of those ideas, or some new ideas that you've got that you might use. So type into the chat area some ways in which you've seen it or you've heard of mobile phones being used, and then I'll leave that for a couple of minutes, and then when we've got a whole lot of ideas on there, then we'll move on and start looking at some of the tools that you might use to do these things. They don't need to be long essays, just brief ideas as to how you might use it. A class community discussion, fantastic. And whether it's class or whether it's course, yeah, it might be a way of getting all the students in different units in the course communicating. Or you can talk. You don't need to type into the chat, but you can talk, and then it'll still be in the recording. Okay, if there's no other particular ideas, then we might move on and start looking at. Oh, Caspar? Okay, look, we might move on. Yes, too good a list already. Fair enough. And Vinny is suggesting taking photographs and uploading to discussion forums. All right, weathering and erosion, etc. Fantastic. Okay. You can keep adding those into the chat area there, but I'll move on and we'll start looking at some of the tools. All right, so first of all, if you're just using the phone without any extra tools, as long as it's a smartphone, it's got a browser, then you can use Moodle assignments or forums or wikis, and you can, of course, type in text into a text box type assignment or forum or wiki. But you can also use the Atto editor and click on the Add Image button, and students can do this. And so they can then take a photograph with the camera and put it straight into in amongst the text. Alternatively, they can attach a file. If you're using Android, I don't know the Windows phone, the Windows mobile system well, so I've put, but I presume that operates in the Android sort of fashion. So you can attach any file, whereas with the Apple, you can only attach files from iCloud or Dropbox or that sort of thing, because Apple, the iOS doesn't have a file system that's across all the different apps, but there's some sort of links between the different apps. And in either system, you can use your camera, but in Android, it's a little confusing because you have, when you say I want to upload a file, then you get the option of, on my phone, I get two options for operating system and then one for documents. And if you click operating system, then you see where the camera is. Okay. So that's without any other apps or anything like that. Moving on to the next one, we've actually installed the Moodle Poodle plugin into Moodle, and so there's a little example of a sketch that you could do on your phone that I did yesterday. But you could use it for all sorts of primitive sketches, such as indicating where photographs were taken on a site or something like that. Okay. The Poodle plugin, the LL is for language learning. It's designed for recording audio or video or drawing on the screen like that. So it's another option. Primitive, but sometimes useful. Okay, the Moodle Mobile App. this is the official Moodle app, and the latest version is shown on the right there. You can, but it can record audio and video. It will show you. It's not showing very nicely on the screen there, I'm afraid, but there's a list of the courses that I'm enrolled in there, and there's both the course content and there's the participants on there, so that you can message to them. It'll also be sitting in the background on your phone, and so it can receive notifications and pop them up, saying that there's a new comment in the forum, or there's an assignment due, or whatever. Teachers can use it to make notes about students. Teachers can view the calendar, and there's in the latest update of it, as Vinny was saying, you can now use quizzes offline, apparently. So that'll be interesting to see, but also forums and wikis. So there's Moodle Mobile can do lots of very useful stuff, and it's designed specifically for the mobile, so it's good, nice layout on the screen. Okay, a few more apps, and then over to you. So Portfolio Up enables students to upload directly to Mahara, the Moodle companion e-portfolio system, but there are similar ones for other e-portfolio websites. YouTube, of course, is fantastic, and students are using it all the time. And if you're getting students to do videos, it's a good idea to get them to create the video, use the YouTube app to upload it to YouTube, and then share the link back into Moodle, so that your Moodle server doesn't fill up with huge video files. The other benefit of using YouTube is that regardless of the phone or the tablet or whatever the students are using, YouTube will take whatever video format is produced, and it'll make it available into other formats that are suitable for whatever computer is viewing it. So YouTube has grown big by having a lot of very sophisticated video format changing and converting software in the background that you don't know is happening, but it's terrific. And YouTube's got 3 different levels. You can make a YouTube public or private or unlisted. The unlisted one is probably the most useful one, so that only people with the web link can access the YouTube, and then the unlisted link can be put into a discussion forum or whatever. Then other students can watch that student's video from YouTube without having problems of security and whatever. Okay, moving on, Moodle Maps, of course, is fantastic, that it can be used for all sorts of geography or collection of data or whatever. Google Translate's the most remarkable thing, where you can even take a photograph with the camera of a Japanese menu, and it will tell you almost immediately what's on the menu in other languages. WizIQ I find only just usable and hardly, but on a mobile phone, but there's a WizIQ app, but I dare say that they will improve that as time goes on. Skype, of course, but now there would be a whole host of other apps that are relevant to teaching, and so the next idea is over to you. Again, down in the chat area. So if you can type in ideas about how any other apps that you've seen or used that you might be able to use with students in learning. So just a minute or two, and we'll see how we go. Or people can talk if you like, and suggest it to everybody. And in fact, again, we might move on while you are typing in. The Adobe mobile apps I don't know them, Natalie. Would you like to take the microphone and just activate your microphone up the top and tell us a little about them? And no problem. You can type it in. You can't now. Sorry, that's okay. No problem. But I shall look forward to having a look at them. Okay, fair enough. Okay, and other ideas can come in while we're looking at the next one. Here's a new idea. You can make your own web app. Box Hill Institute, a couple of, or 4 people here have been contributing to this fantastic MOBAS, a mobile assessment app that we've developed. And it's got these 4 or 5, oh no, 6 or 7 items in here. So you can, the students can go to a particular website and activate this app. So it's a web app made in HTML5 and works on all the phones that will handle HTML5, which is most now, unless the very old ones. So they can document creating a procedure or a process that they might be using in the workplace. There's a job safety analysis, that's this one here, so they can adjust the risk of something happening and the likelihood of it happening and whatever. The safe work methods statement is in there so they can document the hazards and what they need to do. A demonstration checklist, the tutor can provide a number of different criteria that the student has to meet. Then the student in the workplace can demonstrate that with the tutor visiting, and then the tutor can tick off the various different things as the student's doing it, and then it can be stored in the student's Moodle results. That's a neat one. And of course, for that one, the tutor has to put in a password so that it's a verified assessment. And so there's a few other specific ones that are in there. So how's it done? The teacher just makes a Moodle assignment and then chooses the options, and they can specify which one of these items, which one of these templates is to be used in the app. So that's a terrific idea, and it's in its second version now. And Natalie has just added to the chat, baby versions of Photoshop, Dreamweaver free and super easy. Free and super easy, and Adobe Slate. Well, thank you. I shall investigate those. Okay, why not mobiles? Well, obviously the small screen and limited data that can be presented. There's also the distractions, the digital distractions they were talking about on the radio a day or two ago. If you've got, you're learning in the midst of Facebook and texting and all, it can be much harder. If we draw boundaries around it, maybe it's easier. But if very much the students are in control when they're on the phone outside the classroom. Okay. They can draw us together, but they can also isolate us. I've got a few, there are some wonderful photos of very isolated students in their own worlds on phones. What to do for students without functioning or suitable phones? Can you provide some other phones, or do they share phones? There's all sorts of ways around these problems because there's so many so many friends who have got their phones. But then, of course, there's a variety of systems and compatibilities. And the teacher can't be solving all of those problems that are there. And although there's Google Docs that can work well, and Google Sheets and whatever, there's not the Word or Excel in general, but the Windows Phone has versions of that. Okay, student bandwidth charges and a connection to Wi-Fi issues. There's all sorts of difficulties possible there. big files, the iPhone 6, take a photo there, or particularly take a video, and you could end up with gigabytes in minutes, and that would be using up their phone usage charges. And but as I suggested, you can upload to YouTube. That might be a possibility when you're on Wi-Fi. And finally, there's a question of just a sort of opening the ethics question of, do we have the right to use or modify or access student phones? Just a question that's a possibility. One suggestion in another organisation was that we use student laptops for doing Moodle quizzes, and that might involve putting in something like Respondus Lockdown Browser, so that you know that the student is not accessing other things while the quiz is on. Okay, but then that's modifying the student's laptop to install that browser, or to require them to install it. And so there's issues in there. One interesting way around that a chap at Monash University is using is he's got a device that will put quickly Moodle and some other content onto 50 USBs at once, and those USBs can be put into PCs or Macs or whatever, and then the student boots up from that USB, and then it's completely locked down, and it doesn't affect the student's laptop. You just unplug the USB after the quiz, and then I thought it was terrific. Matthew Hellier at Monash University is exploring that one, and he's got a special device that you can plug 50 USBs into all at once, and he can run a script to put content onto it and to take the results off afterwards. So, all right, so that was a little by the by, but that's the end of this presentation, and I'm now over to you for questions. So are there any questions about any of the things that we've discussed, or any suggestions or whatever? So if you'd just like to turn on your microphone, and or you can type a question into the chat area. So over to you. Oh, and while you're typing or thinking, I will refer you to the iMoot website. On the website for this session, there's a wiki, there's a forum, there's an assignment, and you can go in there and just try things out using your mobile phone. And so it's just a play area where you can try using them over the next few days when you get a chance in between the sessions that are available. So let me encourage you to take your phone and go to the iMoot website, and then log into this, or select this session, and then you'll see the that Moodle course there for this session, and you can just go down. And the other thing that I'd like you to do is to provide some feedback in there. Okay, how do we see mobile learning changing in the future? I guess a fairly general answer. I don't have any specific sort of suggestions, but I think people are using desktop computers less and less these days. Much more is happening on mobile phones, and so I think it's very much the way of the future. I suspect that progressively the systems will become easier to use, and already we're seeing lots of the apps becoming much easier to use and much more specific. Yes. Nothing more specific an answer than that, I'm afraid. But thank you, Vinny. Any other questions from anybody? Can anyone describe some of the ways in which they've used mobile phones with classes? You can either type into the chat or turn on your microphone and talk about it with us. Okay, well, if there's no other questions, you might like to. Oh, here we are, Ed. We're seeing many more students use phones as their primary device to access Moodle. And how successful are you finding that, Ed? Thanks, Josh. I think it's very much the infancy of mobile phones, even though they've been around for a while. But I suspect that there will be many, many more applications that are found. How can you handle the quality of an audio or video using mobile? Thanks, Carlos, and others may have an answer to this as well. With audio and video, as I said, we're using the Poodle plugin for Moodle. With video, there's some processing that happens in Japan, I think it is, when the students get onto, when they take their video, they get onto the Wi-Fi, they then upload it, and it goes via Japan, they don't know that, and then goes into Moodle, but it gets processed in Japan, and then the video is compressed there, and then it's smaller than when it appears on your Moodle. And handling the quality with, do you have a specific question there about audio, Carlos, or is it a more general one? Oh, thanks, Vinny. Justin Hunt from Poodle is presenting at iMoot. Yeah, fantastic. So you can ask him directly the question about audio and video there. And Ed's, if I don't use my screen, it blanks out. Now it's come back in. Ed was saying it's been good. We have students out in the field in clinicals and such, and they really like the ability to access content. Yes, actually, another example of the mobile phone has been in hospitality when, if there's some courses that of some training for particular tasks, when people in hospitality get a quiet moment, they can do small parts of their learning if it's well adapted for mobile. I heard a very interesting presentation at one stage that was very successful for a hotel chain. Okay. Okay, and you felt fortunate to use Kaltura for your video. Okay, terrific. All right, well, look, we might call it a day there. And so thanks for attending. And do use...
a perfect spot for me to... Hi, this is Vinny from the iMoot team. That's a perfect spot for me to just jump in again and say thank you very much, Ian, for your presentation today. It's certainly given me lots to think about. I might, after this presentation, run off and just double check that the iMoot site is available through the Moodle Mobile App, which I haven't tested yet. So that's a little bit of homework for me to do. But thank you very much for your presentation, and I hope everybody enjoyed it. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of this year's iMoot.
That's a pleasure. Thank you.